to this big question of are we alone? There are two possibilities. One is we are not, and Drake's equation says there's a very high likelihood that there are other civilizations out there. And there's maybe a slight probability that we are alone. Which option do you think is scarier?
Oh, that we are alone, because I think the other possibility allows us to learn from those who are more advanced than we are. There is a sort of natural selection that the survivors among all civilizations that ever existed in the Milky Way galaxy are probably the smartest students in our class, in the sense that they spread out from their original home planet and develop technologies, including artificial intelligence, robots, or gadgets that can operate on their own and basically go places and recreate what they find valuable. So it's just like the Gutenberg printing press. You know, before the printing press, every copy of the Bible, for example, was handwritten, and it could have been damaged and the information in it would have been lost. But as soon as the printing press took place, there were so many copies that if one of them gets destroyed, it's not a tragedy. And what I hope is in the future we'll send out those what I call AI astronauts that would go out and spread the word and basically use raw materials on planets that they find to recreate what we have here on Earth. And sort of a version of Noah's Ark, you know, in the biblical story. I'm getting back to religion. There is this story about Noah who built an ark and put animals in it so that they would survive the great flood.
Yeah.
And life on Earth would not be lost. And that's a metaphor to imagining, for example, global warming or an asteroid impact or nuclear war, bringing a catastrophe on humanity. You want to preserve something from what we care about, and but instead of putting what we cherish, like biological creatures, like including humans and animals, on a spaceship, which would be very expensive and also dangerous, because travel through interstellar space, is risky. There are cosmic rays, energetic particles that can damage any cell in our body within a matter of years. If you just go there unprotected, that's a risk also for Mars, if we ever go to Mars. So instead of putting all these animals and humans on a spaceship in the way that Noah would have imagined, a much better approach is to put it in software. And then it's sort of like keeping the information in the DNA so that you can reproduce what you care about elsewhere using the raw materials. That's what nature does. When you look at dandelion seeds, they don't carry the flower with them. They carry the information about how to make a flower, and then they land on a fertile ground far away. They get carried by the wind, and they recreate that flower. So in the same way that nature does it, we can do it technologically by recreating life as we know it and as we like it elsewhere, basically seeding it artificially. And that's the way I see the future, that we would go places and recreate what we love here on Earth. And if I can imagine it, maybe someone else did it. And this would be the most accomplished civilizations that we can learn from. I don't think they are here to harm us. The way Stephen Hawking was talking about a decade ago, he said that we should be very careful at transmitting radio waves far away because they might come to haunt us. And I'm not afraid of that, because I don't think that we are significant and that we are a threat to them. They are so much more advanced, those ones that would reach our doorstep before we reach their doorstep. So it's an opportunity for us to learn and grow and perhaps, encounter something much bigger than us. And why is that important? It's because it will inspire us. Right now, if you look around the world, it's very depressing. We're spending $2 trillion a year on military budgets. And there are 2 wars going on over territories. These are pieces of land on this rock that was left over from the formation of the sun, just a tiny rock. And there is so much more real estate in space. It makes no sense for us to kill each other over the, land here on Earth. And my hope is that getting a letter in the mail could potentially provide us with salvation. Like it would save us from the misery that we are inflicting on each other. It would bring humanity together, because when you realize there is someone bigger than you that you can learn from, perhaps we would change our priorities. If we were to invest $2 trillion a year in space exploration instead of military budgets, I calculated that we could send a probe towards every star in the Milky Way galaxy within 1 century. And that's hundreds of billions of stars. And so it's just a matter of priorities. Now, in difference from John Lennon, I'm not naive. I'm not saying that imagine all the people living in peace. That will not happen by itself, because human nature is destructive. You can see that all around. What I say is, by witnessing something bigger than us, we might get a sense of modesty and realize, just like in the Old Testament, there is a story about Moses seeing the burning bush that was never consumed. And nowadays, can buy on Amazon something that looks like a burning bush that is never consumed. And that would have impressed Moses, obviously. If I were next to him, by the way, I would immediately use the infrared cameras of the Galileo project to tell Moses what is the surface temperature of this object, how much energy is emitted per unit time, and infer whether indeed there is a superhuman entity that made it. So my point is, a very advanced scientific civilization is a good approximation to what Moses called God, because it would look like miracles, but it actually may reflect a better understanding of nature in terms of an advanced scientific or technological civilization. So it's a way of bringing religion and science together if we witness something bigger than us that would give us a pause, change our priorities. That's the way I see it. So when people talk about the Messiah arriving in the future, I don't think the Messiah will come from Brooklyn, for example, the way some Orthodox Jews believe. I think most likely the Messiah will be from interstellar space, from another planet, and it would bring peace to Earth.